Quiz time, guys. You got a few minutes to think.
So try out these two questions. The first question, you have a definition like this. Understand what it does, what each statement does, how the arguments are defined, and then check out of these given options what are the valid function calls. So what all will work and which all will generate an error. So see how the values are passed here and how the values are received. So compare both function definition and function call and find out which of them are valid. And the next question, you write a function that accepts a list and calculates only the sum of integers in the list. So the list can have mixed data types. So what you need to do is that define a function that accepts a list as its input, and in that list can have any data type, any element of any data type. What you need to do is you have to only calculate the sum of the integers alone in that list. So write a function and then use function calls to get the appropriate output. It takes some 10 minutes to solve these two questions. Then I will explain you how to do it.
Time's up. Now evaluate yourself and keep listening.
So here I have used a generic representation of value. So you can just give some other value or a number or something like that. So now we have a function definition with def. The function name is foo and it has 3 arguments. So arg1 and arg2 are your positional arguments and arg3 is a default argument with a default value of 6. You can give any value, and since this is just to compare your syntax, so I didn't give any code to define, so it just has a return statement, that's it. Now what about the first case? You have foo of xy. So if you pass x and y, do you think it will work correctly? The answer is yes, because x gets assigned to arg1, y gets assigned to arg2, and you already have a default value for arg3, so you don't need to give arg3 here. So even without arg3 it will work fine. That is what we saw in default argument, right? You can ignore the default argument. If you give a value, that value gets replaced. If you don't give, the default value is taken. So whatever you had for this value gets stored in arg3 and the function executes. So this will work. And what about second case? Foo, you don't send. So this will not work because even though you have one value for this default argument, you still have two positional arguments. So you need values for these two. If you don't send anything but you are receiving using three variables, so it is going to generate an error. Say something like, it says foo missing two required positional arguments arg1 and arg2. So you have to give values for arg1 and arg2 since those two are positional arguments, so that the corresponding value, the first value gets assigned to the first parameter, the second value gets assigned to the second parameter or the second argument. And here foo x, y, arg3 equal to z. So you have x for arg1, y for arg2, and you are giving z for arg3. So since this is default argument, this z will overwrite this value, so it will work. In the fourth case, foo arg2 is y, arg1 is x, and arg3 is z. So here we are using keyword arguments, right? So you are already mentioning the variable and specifying the value itself directly here, and where you are receiving it, again you have arg1, arg2 and arg3. So as I said, as long as the variable names are same, the order does not matter. So here, even though we have 2, 1, 3, but here 1, 2, 3, it will still work because these are keyword arguments. So from all these four, A will work, B will not work, C works, and D also works. And what about E? We have x, y, and then arg4 is z. So we have x for arg1, y for arg2, and arg4 we have a default value of z. However, this will not work because we don't have an arg4 here, we only have arg3. So this variable name is different, so it will generate an error. Because as far as Python is concerned, it will assign these two values here for arg1, arg2, but it won't know what arg4 is because here you are only using arg3. So that mismatch will generate an error. So out of these, only A, C and D will work. B and D will generate errors. You need to be clear with this. As I said, all your functions work on argument receiving passing mechanisms. So if you want to write full-fledged, full-scale programs, you have to understand this very well. Next, write a function that accepts a list and calculates only the sum of integers in the list. So first use def. Let me just define a function called calcsum, and it accepts a list. So let's assume we are sending a list in a function call, so that list gets assigned over here. Now you need to define a logic to calculate the sum of integers in the list. So how do you do it? First, you need to access each element one by one. So for I in X, now we have every element. Out of that, we need only the integers, right? So if type of X equal to int, only then you perform the set of operations over here, right? Otherwise you don't include them. So here, how do you calculate and update the sum? And don't forget the indentation. As I keep saying, indentation is really important in Python. That is how it identifies the blocks that are given. So whatever you give after this in here is stored in if, and this entire portion is stored in for, it belongs to for block, and everything that you give within this particular scope or this particular indentation, that belongs to this particular function calc sum. So be careful with your indentation, don't miss out these spaces. Now back to the program. So to store your output, first you need a variable. So let me just declare a variable, sum equal to 0 is the initial value. So whenever we include an integer, you update sum equal to sum plus I. So what it does, first initially sum is 0. When the first integer is encountered, you add that with sum, that is your 0 plus that particular integer. Say you are encountering 5. Now this becomes 5 and is stored back in sum. So sum is updated to 5. Now in the next iteration, let's say you encounter another integer 2. Then you have sum equal to, sum was previously 5, I is 2, so 5 plus 2 is 7 is updated. So in this way, every particular integer that is encountered is added back on your result. So it is like an accumulated result of all your sums, and once this is done, you print your output. So again, as I said before, be careful where you give your print statement. So we add everything and only finally need the output. So you have to give your print outside your for block. So print sum. Okay, notice the color of sum is in green, right? So which indicates that it has an inbuilt meaning. So you can't use sum as the variable name. So let me give something like sum no. So you need to change your variable name accordingly. Now that we have written the logic to print the sum of the list, next let us look at how to input the list. So we have seen in your list tasks, you can get a list using the input function. However, whatever you type in the input gets stored as string, so you had to split it again using the dot split function. Then we got the element one by one. If you remember, we did something like this. So we use this dot split. The input that you give using the input function is stored as string. So you use your dot split function to separate your items individually and store. And then once you have the individual elements in a list, while using, you have to again convert each of them into integers and then use it. So this involves some 3 to 4 steps and is tedious just to get your input right. So what you can do as an alternative is that, now since you know how to use loops, you can use loops to get your input. Let's say you are giving an input of 5 elements. So you need to do for I in range say 5, right? 5 will generate 0 to 4. So this will iterate at I equal to 0, I equal to 1, I equal to 2, I equal to 3 and I equal to 4. So it will iterate 5 times. Range say A equal to input enter item you can directly convert it into integer over here. And once you get your input and convert it to integer, you can append it into a list. Say I have an empty list L, then L dot append A. So what it does, 5 times it will execute, this particular loop will execute 5 times, and each time first it will get an input. You can do it in 2 steps also. I have just done it in 1 step. You get an input, and then that input is converted into an integer and stored in A. Then you append that A to your L. So this generates a list, say print L. Now if I run this, as I said, this calc sum will not execute until and unless you mention a function call. So I haven't used this calc sum function call anywhere. So this will not, all these steps will not execute. So the first step that this program encounters is this. So it executes from here. It creates an empty list, and then it performs this task of obtaining the input. Say enter item hi. Actually we don't need this int step because we are obtaining the list as it is, and inside the list we are checking if we have an integer, then we add. So there is no need for this step actually. So this obtains 5 items and stores them in a list. That's it. So first enter item, let me say the first item is hi, and enter item, let me say the second is 6, and then 9, and then 3, and then say hello. So these are my elements of the list. We have all these elements stored here. Then you need to, now that you have obtained your input, now pass that input to the function. So now you make your function call. Once these steps are over, the program will come over here. It will check. Now you are doing a function call, so the flow will shift to this function definition. So calc sum of L. So you are sending a list and you are receiving it in X. Then you are performing your operations on X. Now again there is one catch. That is, you can see all the elements of L are stored as strings. So if you note, you have single quotes around every element. So what happens when it encounters this particular statement? This type of x equal to int will always be false because all elements are strings. So how do you segregate integers alone from this? So we had a string function, right? Dot is numeric. So that will check if the string contains only numbers. So you can use that. Work, but anyhow let us just check once again. So go through the logic and verify if we have done any mistake. First you assign an empty variable 0 variable, and then for each item, if that item dot numeric is true, that is if that item can be converted into an integer, if it consists only of digits, then you convert it into the integer form, because here it is still a string, right? So you convert it to integer and add it to that sum and print the sum. So enter item, first 8, and let me give 1 and hi and hello and 1. Okay, now it works fine, right? So what you can do is, even getting this input, you can define it as a separate function. So you define a function called diff get input, and within that you can define this and return back your list. So here I am declaring this empty list, then adding elements and returning it back. and that returned element I am storing it in, say, x, or let me use some other variable, say lst equal to get input, and then you can print your lst to verify your output. So you can do this way. As I said, the order of function definitions does not matter because these are not going to get executed, right? So you can give this function before here or this function before this, it doesn't matter, as long as you get the definition right, and you need to maintain the order in getting the function calls. So the flow will come here. First it will check for the statement, get input is what you are calling first, so this flow will go over here, it will get this list and return the list here, and I am storing that list in LST, and you pass that LST to this calcsum function. So you can do it this way too.
I hope you have liked the class. I'll be waiting for your queries at the BrainBloom app. See you tomorrow.